During the pandemic, you learned that video would be important to allow you as an organization to communicate. Now, let me show you how Pexip can make you a video-first company.
Greetings and welcome to Enterprise Connect 2021. It is the premier marketplace of ideas for enterprise collaboration and communication. I'm Father Robert Ballecer, the digital Jesuit, your guide to all the hottest tech and trends from the show. And I have the privilege of speaking with Mr. Jordan Owens. He is the Vice President of Architecture at Pexip. Thank you, Jordan, for taking the time to speak with us.
Hey, thanks so much for having me. I really look forward to this conversation and, quite frankly, look forward to actually being together with people at a show again. It's been a while, so looking forward to it.
Yeah, I think we've all gotten a little cabin fever, and it's nice to be out and about. It's nice to be back doing what we love, which is looking at new technologies. Now, speaking of new technologies, I've seen Pexip. I've seen your presentations. I've been to your booth. I've heard the taglines. And I know that you empower face-to-face communications and collaboration anywhere with anything, meaning I can be anywhere in any circumstance, in any environment, using most any kind of technology, and you connect me, which is a nice tagline. But what does that mean? How does your solution actually work? How can I use Pexip to connect my various clients in various spaces with various technologies?
So it's a great question. It's a big question, and it's a multi-threaded answer. What I would say is if you looked at it from a tagline perspective, the idea around this is that users can use the device that they want to connect into any meeting that they're invited to, right? And if I'm a user and I happen to like my Cisco endpoint or my Poly endpoint, or I prefer to use a web browser, I like to use apps or whatever the case may be, I need to feel comfortable in what I use. I need to feel comfortable in my environment. Why? Because only when I'm comfortable does technology fade into the background and I actually focus in the meeting itself, right? If I don't feel comfortable, if I'm sitting inside of a solution that I'm constantly thinking, well, hold on, I have to press this button and then I have to do this, and oh, hold on, how do I bring up content and what do I need to do? I've ignored the fact that I'm in a meeting and I'm now focused too much on the technology. And that's really what we spend every single day doing. That's really what we do in everything that we do, and the focus that we have in everything that we do. And we try to make technology completely fade into the background such that users just get the opportunity to focus at the meeting itself. And they don't have to think about the technology because, again, it doesn't really matter. That's not the point.
Right. And actually, when we were connecting this call, I got to play a little bit with the interface. And in the desktop client alone, I have the opportunity to use a web client or download the desktop client. I could use Teams. I could use Google Meet. I could use Skype. I could use an existing piece of hardware that I have installed. And it really is, it's simple. You go into the app and you choose what you have and you're connected.
A lot of organizations use us for that simplistic approach because they're consolidating around Microsoft Teams or Google Meet or Zoom or Pexip or Cisco or any one of these other organizations out there. But at the same time, either their users internally or their partners, their customers, their suppliers, whomever, use other technologies. You know, the average meeting environment, the average customer, the average organization has 3 or more meeting solutions within their environment already today. And the reality is that this industry is getting more fragmented. It's getting harder. It's getting more complex, not the opposite direction. And one of the things that we bring to the table is we bring that level of user simplicity, even administrative simplicity, such that they get that flexibility without having to compromise access.
Let's talk a little bit about that fragmentation, because I think it's actually incredibly important. Over the last 18 months, we have seen businesses do what they had to do. I mean, they had to get their workers connected. They had to do some sort of continuation of business practices. And so they've just used any solutions they could get. If it worked, they would use it. Now, that was fine. And that really expanded UC into corners where it had not existed. It's very exciting from the standpoint of enterprise communications. But at the same time, that fragmentation and that rapid expansion has caused a lot of concerns about security. Do you see this as a problem? And is this something that needs to be addressed as we move back into that consolidation?
100%, that is an absolute need. That is an absolute problem that organizations are now trying to figure out how to tackle. To your point, when the pandemic hit, everybody said, you know what, I have to communicate. I left the office on Friday night and I'm not going back in on Monday morning, and I'm not prepared for people to go home I'm just going to get my hands on something that allows my users to communicate. Well, then fast forward now, what feels like 18 years, but about 18 months into this environment, companies are now starting to take a little bit of a step back, and they're starting to say, okay, hold on. So we made the decision that was right at the time, but is that right strategically? As I've now incorporated this idea of video and visual communications into my overall strategy as an organization, I'm now a video first company. Is the solution that I chose right? Are there other things that I can do? Could I, for example, use this instead of just using it internally for internal meetings? Could I use this to talk to my customers or my suppliers or my partners? Could I do different things? Is it providing the security posture that I want? Is it giving me control of my own data in the right way? They're asking those questions and they're reevaluating their solutions. The end result may be that they continue on with the solution that they've had because they were able to answer those questions to their satisfactory and they're able to move things forward. The answer to that might be to move to a secondary system or a tertiary system or whatever the case may be. But at the end of the day, they need to ask those questions and they need to make sure that they get the answers from whomever they happen to be working with because it is super important. And I'd like to think, put on my sales hat for a second, I'd like to think that we have a really good story there. But at the end of the day, I think a lot of organizations inside this industry are focused, and we need to continue to drive that focus. The reality is security is a journey, not a destination, and we need to always make sure that we're constantly focused on it and getting better. We're not going to release one version and all of a sudden we're secure. It needs to be a constantly evolving, constantly maturing type of an environment. And us as vendors need to provide a transparent view to you, the customer, so that you know what we're doing and how we're treating your data, because that's super important as well.
I like the fact that you bring up the questions that a prospective client needs to ask. And I like the fact that you also bring up the idea that a company needs to be transparent. More than ever, a company needs to say, look, this is what we're doing with your data. This is the service that we are providing. This is how we're using it to give you better service. I think that would head off so many issues with deployment if a client and a service provider were just honest upfront about what they can do for each other. I want to push a little bit on that. Let's say someone's coming to you at your booth at Enterprise Connect, and they've got a mid-size enterprise. And as you mentioned, they panicked, and they're using 15 different cloud services to get data to their workers because they had to, because that was the only option. And now they're looking at dragging that back. What are the questions that you would give them? What would you do, staring in their face, saying, look, you have to ask this, this, and this? What are the three most important things they need to consider as they look at what the hybrid office of their future looks like?
So first of all, the first question that they absolutely need to ask is, are the solutions that they're using working for their end users? We'll come back to security in a second. Don't worry, I'm not going to ignore that by any stretch of the imagination. But the first thing you need to do is focus on the users. Because the reality is that if you don't provide, you could provide the most secure solution in the world, but if it doesn't work for your users, they're going to go off and they're going to do something else, which undermines the entire intent behind the security solution that they're already looking at, right? And so you have to make sure that you are providing the solution that solves problems for your end users. Does it give your end users the ability to join from a mobile device? Does it give your end users to invite somebody into the meeting that doesn't have an app downloaded? Does it give your end users the ability to walk into the conference room if they happen to be back in the office? Can they get the quality of experience when they're working from home that they would expect to have? All of those things are super important when you look at the world through an end user perspective. Then you need to look at it from an administrative perspective. Does the solution that you have allow your administrators to be strategic value providers into your organization? Or is the solution that you have going to force administrators to be so hands-on that they're just going to be running around like chickens with their heads cut off, right? Because again, the administrators are users as well. And so we need to make sure that we're providing them the solution, them the access to the information, and them the control of the information that they need to be able to get there. And then finally, security is the organization that you're working with partnering with you in this journey? Look, the reality is bugs happen, issues happen. There are going to be problems that occur, but is the organization that you're working with as committed as you are to helping you find success along this journey? Is it an organization that is made up of humans who care and who will stay up all night if they need to help you work on something and will actually internalize and embrace the problems that you have? Or is the organization simply a bunch of robots, and once they sell you something, it's, hey, good luck, Godspeed. I hope you find the issue that you need on your own. And you want to make sure that you have an organization that is going to walk with you step by step and make sure that you find success with that overall solution, whether it's a security vulnerability, whether it's a bug that happens, whatever the case may be, someone that is as committed to your success as any.
I have been speaking with Mr. Jordan Owens. He is the Vice President of Architecture at Pexip. Thank you, Jordan, for your time. Now, tell me, if they wanted to have this conversation with you, if they actually wanted to ask those questions and see what you could do for them, where should they go?
Yeah, so we'll be down at Enterprise Connect. I'll be there myself. I'm super excited on so many levels to be down there. We'll be at booth 619 on the show floor. We've got some speaking sessions as well, so feel free to look us up. We'll be happy to meet with you there. I'd love to sit down and have a conversation. You can also find us on our website, pexip.com. That's PEXIP.com. On Twitter as well, at Pexip, at PEXIP. Thanks so much for the time.
Thank you, Jordan. I'm Father Robert Balacer, the digital Jesuit, bringing you the best from Enterprise Connect 2021.